Consider this scene from the film A Few Good Men. Lieutenant Caffey. If Lieutenant Kendrick gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched, then why did he have to be transferred? Colonel. Lieutenant Kendrick ordered the code red, didn't he? Because that's what you told Lieutenant Kendrick to do. And then later, Lieutenant Caffey, Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red? Colonel Jessup, you want answers? Lieutenant Caffey, I think I'm entitled. Colonel Jessup, you want answers? Lieutenant Caffey, I want the truth. Now say it loud if you know the next line. Colonel Jessup, you can't handle the truth. So as you can see from the audience response, this is a scene that most of us remember well. In A Few Good Men, Lieutenant Caffey stands in a courtroom working to disprove a story that seems airtight. The Marines insist that his two clients acted on their own, while Colonel Jessup insists that he never ordered the code red. The narrative from the Marines, it's clean, simple, and authoritative. But Caffey does something extraordinary. He doesn't just present evidence, he dismantles their story. He exposes the assumptions, the omissions, and the power dynamics hiding beneath the surface. And in so doing, he forces the courtroom to confront a truth that had been there all along. Caffey shows us that legal outcomes often turn not on facts alone, but on who controls the narrative. On who rules, who writes, and who gets to tell the story. My research begins with a simple but transformative idea. Legal opinions are stories. They have narrators, plot lines, heroes, villains, and most importantly, perspectives. Narratology gives us the tools to see how those stories are constructed and why they are persuasive. Just like Caffey, narratology inquires, who is telling the story? What assumptions shape its perspective? Which facts get seen and which ones get erased? Legal opinions present themselves as neutral, but they are actually well-crafted arguments. And once we recognize as much, we can begin to see how constructed narratives not only shape legal outcomes, but also our collective understanding of race, equality, and justice. The majority opinion in the Harvard and UNC affirmative action cases constructs a particular narrative about race. Its author, Chief Justice Roberts, does not simply interpret the Equal Protection Clause. He rewrites the story of race and racism in our nation. His narrative rests on what narratologists call doxa, unexamined cultural assumptions. In this case, that race is just skin color, that racism is aberrational, that traditional measures of merit are race neutral, that treating people equally requires treating them exactly the same, devoid of any context. By omitting history, flattening context, and reframing precedent, the opinion constructs a new story about race, one that the Chief Justice claims is neutral, but is deeply ideological. This is narrative power at work. The opinion assumes that if we hide race, if we remove the checkbox, we erase racial influence. But research tells us otherwise. Racial identity appears in cues around us like names. Implicit bias studies show that when race is made salient, bias decreases because people become more reflective. And when race is suppressed, bias becomes more prevalent. Pretending race is not there does not create fair process. It just makes bias harder to see. Colorblind language does not create colorblind outcomes. It creates colorblind stories, stories that obscure the realities that people of color face. If legal opinions are stories, then justice requires better stories. Stories that recognize how racism shapes opportunity. Stories that include the voices that the majority opinion leaves out. Language is one of our most powerful tools. It can obscure or illuminate, erase or empower. The future of equal protection depends on the stories that we choose to tell next. So let me return to A Few Good Men for a moment. Caffey wins not because he uncovers new facts, but because he forces the courtroom to see the old facts differently. He reveals a narrative that was shaping everyone's understanding, and then he rewrites it. The Supreme Court's latest affirmative action opinion presents its own polished narrative. Race as skin color, equality as sameness. merit as neutral and uninfluenced by racism, but narratology helps us to see the cracks in that story, the assumptions beneath it, and the realities it leaves out. And just like in the film, once you see the narrative architecture, you can't unsee it. You start to recognize where power hides, whose voices are missing, and what truths are being glossed over in the name of neutrality. If law is storytelling, then justice requires better stories, stories that tell the truth we can handle.